Praised be you, my Lord, through brother wind and through the air, cloudy and serene, and every kind of weather, through which you give sustenance to your creatures. Praised be you, my Lord, through sister water, which is very useful and humble and precious and chaste. Praised be you, my Lord, through brother fire, through whom you light the night, and he is beautiful and playful and robust and strong. Praised be you, my Lord, through sister Mother Earth, who sustains us and governs us, and who produces varied fruits with coloured flowers and herbs.
I'm sorry. Brother Wind, Sister Water, Mother Earth? What in the world is this new age hippie mumbo jumbo, I hear you ask? Well, it might surprise you that these words are lifted from a famous prayer, Canticle of the Sun, by, wait for it, Francis of Assisi.
You've likely heard of him before. He holds the title of patron saint to animals and ecology, being renowned for his love shown towards wild animals and the environment.
Yeah, this guy was the OG Captain Planet, sans green mullet and luminous blue skin. He saw nature as a mirror to God, calling all creatures his brothers and sisters. He famously preached to flocks of birds who would perch on trees, listening intently to his sermons, and then fly off in all directions once he was finished.
Despite being known for his vow of poverty, Francis was the son of a wealthy silk merchant. He spent his youth in lavish extravagance, dressed in the finest clothes, enjoying all the decadence the material world had to offer.
But he became disillusioned by the disparity of wealth he saw around him and sought spiritual enlightenment. In his early 20s, he had his first mystical vision in an abandoned chapel just outside Assisi. A statue of Christ crucified came alive and spoke to him from the cross. Francis, Francis, go and repair my church, which you see falling into ruins.
He took this to mean the ruined building he was praying in, but his influence led to a wider spiritual repairing of the capital C church for centuries to come. He sold off large swaths of fabric from his father's business to finance repairs in the chapel. When his dad found out, he was furious, dragging Francis off to a local bishop for a good old reprimand.
Unfortunately, the meeting didn't exactly go to the plan of Francis's dad, as Francis decidedly stripped down in front of the bishop, placing his clothes in a neat pile at his father's feet and declaring, "Up to today, I called you father, but now I can say in all honesty, our Father who art in heaven." Way to make a point, Francis.
By 1209, he'd gathered a small band of brothers called friars, who rapidly grew in number and eventually travelled throughout Europe, preaching the message of repentance, gospel simplicity, and radical obedience to Christ's teaching. This included Jesus' formative instructions to take no gold or silver or copper in your wallet, no bag for your journey, nor 2 tunics or a staff.
Francis's affinity with nature often assisted him with imagery in his preaching. One famous example was in 1220 while he was residing in Gubbio. The city had become increasingly terrified of a wild wolf that had started hunting lone citizens on the outskirts of town. Accompanied by a small group, Francis went out in search of this wolf to make a peace treaty.
When he eventually found the beast, it rushed at Francis, jaws wide open, at which he immediately made the sign of the cross, which tamed the beast instantly. Now, he struck a deal with the wolf that if the townspeople left food out, he would no longer hunt them. He then led the wolf into the town square, where he shook its paw and preached to the citizens of Gubbio about how the jaws of hell were even more terrifying than the jaws of the wild wolf that now lay curled at his feet. Unsurprisingly, many gave their lives to Christ after this sermon.
Now, when I heard this story, I was skeptical, to say the least, but the story gets weirder still. The wolf became an unofficial town mascot of Gubbio, and according to legend, was so beloved that when it eventually died, they gave it a proper burial, later building the Church of St. Francis of the Peace at its gravesite. But it doesn't end there. 600 years later, during renovations in 1827, they ripped up a slab near the church, only to find the skeleton of a large wolf, dated several centuries old. Turns out this wolf really existed.
Francis is also responsible for orchestrating history's first ever nativity scene. He used real animals to curate a space where worshippers could contemplate the birth of Jesus in a direct way by engaging all their senses, presumably including smell. That same year, he preached his Christmas sermon using a manger filled with hay as his pulpit, which was set between a live donkey and an ox. Now that's a memorable sermon.
The Franciscan order were instrumental in revitalising the medieval church, which had become corrupt with extreme wealth and political power. This religious renewal was further fueled by Francis's mystical spirituality. For instance, during a 40-day fast on a mountaintop, Francis experienced a supernatural vision which left him with bleeding wounds in his feet, hands, and side. The first recorded instance of stigmata, the type of wounds Christ suffered on the cross.
Today, the Franciscan order boasts over 500,000 followers. Francis has been hugely influential to the modern church, with Pope Francis even adopting his namesake at ordination, having been inspired by the saint's heart for ministry to the poor and disenfranchised. So here's to Francis of Assisi, wolf tamer, bird preacher, spiritual mystic, church revivalist, and founder of the Franciscan order.
Nice one, Francis.